You guys remember Captain Bucky O'Hare?
Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah.
Captain Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah. And then I think I remember post Ninja Turtles, everything was awful, and it was like street fighting super badass sewer sharks, or like there was that whole subgenre of like.
Don't hate on Street Sharks.
No, I just said the title was a giveaway of what the.
It was, yeah.
Food Fighters, that was fun.
Oh yeah.
Barnyard Commandos. I had all these. I had at least one of every. They made for like an epic end game with all your action figures.
That's absolutely right.
Like that was what was cool about it.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Right. That was like the early Marvel versus Capcom, which is G.I. Joe versus Optimus Prime.
You know? Juggernaut. Yeah.
That's funny. We definitely made fun of Rock Lords more than once on our show, which was just like,
oh my god, you guys are my jam already. Oh my god, I have no one to talk to about this. Although I'm sure Brennan has all this at the ready. Our buddy Charlie, same thing. Which I think Charlie and Brennan, you guys can bond probably more on the gamer front. But
yeah, we were trading tips on GameCube emulators a couple weeks ago and things like that. Just like I had been waiting for Super Mario Sunshine to be remade for the Switch, and then when it announced, I like literally flipped out. It's like one of the top games that I never finished as a kid, and I sold my GameCube for something else, and I never finished it. Now I'm finally going through.
Nice,
man.
It's a big blind spot for me, and just the way people, it seems like kind of a game that like gets people riled up for good or for bad. It makes me want to play it, you know.
It's a really good game. It's like if you're down for Mario but with a totally new device that's like way more of a jump than like Odyssey with the hat and things like that. It's like it's a big move.
That's why they call him Jump Man.
Charlie bought me the controller to try and download like the 64 Nintendo games, including Kung Fu, for my computer, but I haven't, like a 2014 Air, and don't have enough space even for that very small program. So I have this like gamer controller sitting in my closet, and I just bought the really knockoff one with Double Dragon 2, but everything else is not real. Oh man. Memories.
So I have us live on Twitch right now. Do you guys have like a hard out or anything? So I imagine you guys are doing a lot of interviews and stuff like that, or
Today's a little crazy. I have to. Let's see. It's
because we can just talk about Rock Lords for the next 3 hours, but I imagine there's other stuff.
Guys, there are rocks that come to life. I think we need to talk about.
They're Lords of the Rock.
You know how you can transform
Boglins.
I just love the idea of like
45.
Transferring like, it's Starscream, he's a robot. Look, and now he's a plane. Whoosh, and then he takes on, now he's a rock. Like, what do you do?
What time did you say, Josh, you have to head out?
Just 45 from now. So what's that? 1:30 your time?
Okay, great.
Are you in California?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. I'm in Arizona. We bounce in and out. We don't do daylight savings. It's just a pain in the ass because then it's just like the world around me just changes. So like I'm not synced up with my California friends anymore and shit like that.
Oh, that's weird. So funny.
To be clear, you're in the correct time zone though, where we don't do daylight savings.
It's the thing. It's like if everyone got on board with us, it'd be great. But we're it's tough. It's tough to lead.
What time is it for you? Yeah, you never have to change a clock. That's incredible. Move to Sedona.
If you go to like on your like Windows computer, if you set the time zone, I noticed that like there's one that just says Arizona because it's like not permanently anything.
You don't have to do anything.
Yeah. So.
Well, hi Twitch.
Yeah.
Are we?
Yes, we're out there.
Let me show up in here. All right.
On the World Wide Web.
Cool.
Twitch.television. Should we talk about? Should we just do this podcast now? Should we talk about?
Dive in. Yeah.
Okay.
Jeremy, can I do my normal intro and I'll throw to you and you will?
Yeah, sure, man.
Introduce our guests and then
do it. Man.
We'll talk about Inhumanoids or whatever other shows I can remember. I'm trying to think of some of them. We've definitely talked about Cops had a banger soundtrack or the opening song.
Oh my god! Yes, it did.
Fighting crime in the future time. All right. We will talk about your movie at some point.
That's 2 minutes.
Truly don't care.
Noted. I mean, for what it's worth, we'd love to give you a shot to promote it, but also if you anticipate a day of this, it's like we almost should have at the end of the day. So you want to come on and talk about?
I already saw the movie, so you got one person. Like we promoted it to just me at the very least.
And then yeah, I forget. We might talk about this, but then for what it's worth, this also then becomes a podcast on Monday that
cool
downloaded and
that's great.
And such. So conventional podcast release, the live show, yeah.
Rad.
And thank you, Josh, for coming on. And then
yeah, of course,
appreciate it. So I guess we should try to get to it. We got 40-ish minutes. Ian's in the chat. Hey, Ian. We got emojis now. We're excited about it. Do you want to play the intro, Jeremy?
Yeah,
but
you can't even hear it because it's not even.
So you'll just like play it. You'll just movie magic. It'll be there. We'll crossfade it. Okay. So we'll just start our show on me here.
Go for it.
Five does.
All right. Hey, Paisanos, welcome back to another episode of the Hard Drive Podcast, formerly known as Rock Lords Rock. My name is Mark Roebuck. With me, as always, is my friend from another mother, Jeremy Kaplowitz. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Great. So we're here with Josh Ruben and Brendan Banks, and you guys you just put out a movie today on Shudder called Scare Me. How are you guys doing? What's going on?
I mean, 2 years and change, quite the uphill battle, but now we're here. I'm just so glad it's lucrative. I'm just so glad it's lucrative. It's so lucrative. Making independent films is lucrative.
Yeah, you just have
the horror comedy genre.
No, it's wonderful. I mean, this is. Yeah, when Brendan and I made Zombievers, we thought, this is going to change. No, we didn't make Zombievers, but I mean, it's a dream come true. Brendan and I had a pact. We've made short films forever and known each other since our college humor days, which was it feels like close to a decade ago. It wasn't that long ago. I think it was close to a decade.
No, it's like 11 years.
I mean, when we left, it was, I guess, 20. That doesn't count. Yes, no, it's true. It's been a long ass time, and we have pushed the rock up the hill. We've made Star Wars fan films. We've made horror shorts. We've collaborated back and forth, batting around ideas. And we made a pact to make a movie, no matter what, even if it meant, holding the boom and acting in it while operating the camera for, just what we had in our pockets. And here we are. It's incredible. So hopefully it lives up to the GIF meme bumpers and stills hype. People are like, cool assets, but will it make me happy?
Is it memeable?
Well, congrats on getting it done. I mean, that alone is no small feat. And then we were talking a bit with Brian off the air too, of just like, it does feel like dropping on Shudder in October is like that's a pretty nice setup, right? Like,
so rad. It's so cool. Because people are just like, well, now that it's October, not that I've been sitting for 6 months in fear of my lungs. Now I have an excuse to like pull the blanket over me.
Right.
Because this is what I would be doing if life were normal. And
that's right.
It's great.
Right. And I think, not to blow up Jeremy's spot, I didn't think of Jeremy as much, right, Jeremy? I think I like horror movies more than you. Is that fair to say, Jeremy? But even not too long ago, we were
talking. I fucking hate them, dude. I don't know.
No, I mean, we've talked.
No, yeah, it's true.
We've talked before about video games scaring the fuck out of me, and you're like, really? Because sometimes a movie scares the fuck out of me. No, so that more like based on.
I wouldn't say I don't like horror movies. I just am a coward. I was
gonna say let me rephrase this. Even a coward like Jeremy, I was talking to him not too long ago, and my spineless friend was like, "Oh yeah, I watch horror movies in October. It's just like a thing we all do. Even if we're watching them like me the rest of the year, or we're a piece of shit like Jeremy. I'm sorry, I'm kidding. Too far."
Well, I think the big thing with horror comedy, I know there's a lot of comedians who say that horror and comedy are sort of like twin genres. Do you guys agree with that? Like, what's your take on that big, that Jordan Peele, I don't know, sort of world?
I mean, yeah, I think you elicit a visceral reaction, whether it's a guffaw or and if it's no money fun, right? If you're sitting around a campfire, you want to hear a horror story or you want to hear a joke because it's I get a little thrill, give me a little a little dopamine hit, an endorphin buzz, I guess, if you can combine that sort of thing, I don't necessarily consider Ghostbusters or Beetlejuice, adjacent films to the horror genre necessarily. But, when it works, when you have an excuse to, show a severed limb and tell a joke or make it funny, I mean, it's just, man, it's punchy for the brain. You just get it all. It's just like peanut M&Ms and popcorn.
I was just gonna say, when you're talking, that was the word I was about to use, like punchy. They're both, when done right, there's a rhythm and a punchiness to it that it's that's very interesting. Are there any ones you would point to as like that's how you do it? Like, I mean, like you said, Ghostbusters. There's obviously a lot of movies with supernatural elements that are ultimately comedies, but as far as like, is there one or two that you look up to as like that's how you do horror comedy?
I don't know. I mean, Brandon, I know we've had the conversation about, you're kind of being quote unquote new to the genre, but I'm curious to hear what your kind of the recent intake, if there's one that stood out to you. I mean, I have a plethora, but
yeah, I mean, actually, like specifically for horror comedy, I also really like things that are self-aware and whether they play into it or satirize or do something like that. So, I mean, I think an easy one to point to would be something like Shaun of the Dead that like just totally embraces the format, but then says a bunch of stuff and sort of just like has its comments about the genre, not making fun of it, but just like lifting the tropes up and being like, see, these are the elements, and making you laugh throughout that process.
I think the fact that Shaun of the Dead just had a name that was a spoof of Dawn of the Dead made me think it was going to be a little like fartier than it ultimately was when I sat down to watch it. And you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think that Tucker and Dale is like one of the best ones. I haven't actually seen that.
That's a really fun one. That's a fun one. Yeah, I like that a lot. Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
Cabin in the Woods is a great one because I think they do the two sides of the same coin of comedy and horror, like the suspense and thriller, and then the comedic relief that lets you settle down, and then they bring you back up again, then let you down. I think is like that movie. I love for that pacing, that little intra pacing is great.
The originator, I mean, there's many, but the one that I think of, the classic version of that inspired that before, but it's obviously Sam Raimi, but Beyond Evil Dead, it's Evil Dead, Dead by Dawn. Yeah, the remake, the sequel is out of control. I think that when I discovered it, which was late, like maybe 15, 16, I rewatched that DVD. I must have blown it out, 150, 600 times, just nonstop.
When you said The Originator, I thought for a second you were going to talk about an 80s movie I'd never heard of called The Originator. That was a horror comedy. Oh, The Originator. That sounds good, dude.
Chuck Norris, Michael Ironside, and the guy who plays Johnny in Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, which is a great series.
You gotta ignore the 6 Originator sequels, but the first one's pretty good.
Dolph.
Originator 8 is great.
His house.
I think too, an earlier one I think of that I love is Return of the Living Dead is a very
is it the shopping mall one?
No,
it's like listening to the
it's like the Send More Brains one is the first one. It's a bunch of punks in the 80s, and one of them has the job at the lab. But you talk about being self-aware, like in that movie Night of the Living Dead was like, hey, that really happened, here's the tank of the shit, and then like it gets out and stuff. So it's like self-aware, but in that sort of like, of the Living Dead lineage or something. That's one that I think is a lot of fun from 85.
Yeah.
I think Dan O'Banion or Dan Bannon, I forget, but the guy that wrote like Alien also wrote Return of the Living Dead. So like there's gags, but it also just is a cool ass horror movie. Yeah. Return of the Living Dead is a pick.
Night of the Creeps and Monster Squad also that'd be a great double feature. Man, yeah.
I was big on Trauma in like middle school and high school. So like it was like Toxic Avenger. So I wasn't even like really into like real, I would say like horror at that point. I was too much of a scaredy cat like Jeremy.
That's me, man.
and it was just like like surf Nazis and like everything was just like, oh man, we're gonna watch these all night one night.
Yeah. It was funny. I had a cooler older cousin who showed me Evil Dead 2 when I was like young, and you know what I mean? When it's like when you're not even aware of what's being subverted, but you see the wacky shit almost like kind of early. You know what I mean? And it's just like movies that don't have gouges of blood coming out of the wall. I'm like, this is tame. This is kind of boring. But yeah. So can I ask you a question about your guys' film then? Scare Me once again. Is that you said you had this pact of like, let's make a movie. Is this the movie you wanted to make for a long, long time? Or does the pact even like predate this particular idea?
Ooh, that's a great.
I think we were always.
Question.
Oh, sorry, Josh. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I think that we had been talking about like because we had been making shorts together for a couple years, and we were like, we know this is going to lead to a feature, and there will be a time where we do that thing, and we hopefully we have people to help us. But if we just do it ourselves, and because we did the shorts like self-funded 50-50 the whole way. And we all, wore many hats. But then Josh just called and was like, hey, or maybe it was a text storm or something. And it was like, hey, I think I have this idea. I think I want to do this thing. And it was like, okay, let's like just go for it. Like start writing. And I don't know. I think that it was like hand in hand.
There was something really interesting too about, so I think it was knowing from a business standpoint that making a horror film or genre film would ultimately, pay off in some long run, because genre fans will watch anything from Trauma to Hereditary, just to give it a try. It's a very loyal demographic. But also, I wrote this thing pretty fast, and also given what was going on in the world at the time. I mean, the Me Too movement stuff, that was at the top of 2018. A big inspiration for me and motivation was writing angry. Was hearing like a lot of women friends being like, Aziz Ansari just was out. It got something similar happened to me. I've been taken advantage of. I wanted to explore like a really icky thing that guys go through when you're brought up to be like successful, and in the shadow of a woman who's like is successful, especially in the same field. An interesting feeling originates in your gut as like a young white male. You're like, why am I getting that feeling? And I thought, how fucking fun would it be to play the guy who can't self-soothe? So it was a little bit of like, you got to find that drive rather than writing cool scenes, which I've been doing my whole life, without the heart or without the motivation or the motor, without the anger drive. But also ultimately, I was just sort of like, even if whatever the script turns out to be, like once we started writing, we were writing to resources, it was sort of like, I'm going to write knowing we're going to stay at my mom's house, knowing that we'll have like, free Italian food and house some folks at like my childhood friend's place while her folks are away, and make something for the sake of making something. The only thing we wanted to do was to make something, forget about Shudder acquiring us, and forget about Sundance, and forget about the fact that, Shudder has over 1 million subscribers now, and more people may see it than if we had a run an Alamo or whatever straight to DVD after the fact. So it's been a dream come true and just kind of paid off. And there's something weird about like saying you're going to do it, especially if it's low budget. Like Brendan and I just kind of willed it into fruition. We were like, we're going to make this thing. We told our producer friends at Irony Point, Alex Bach and Dan Powell, and they're like, oh, okay, we'll throw money in. And then they get their motor going. We're going to do this thing. What about, are you in? Oh, they throw a little money in. I cashed out my 401k. I made some bad mistakes.
Hey,
but we're here.
Yeah, dude, it's so cool. Congratulations, guys, both of you. Again, Josh is, correct me if I'm missing anything. You mentioned wearing a lot of hats. That seems to still be going on. Josh, you wrote, directed, and are in it. And Brendan, you shot it, right? Are the director of photography?
Yep.
And produced it. And we post-produced it.
Post-produced it.
And he played Aya Cash in the movie.
That's actually me under we spent all the money on prosthetics.
It's a Mission Impossible mask.
And then you mentioned it, and it's kind of amazing. We talked about we're on this end of the thing now. In October, here you are premiering on Shudder, but the year began with you guys at Sundance, and me and Jeremy was like, oh, Sundance 2020. I was like, not having been to it or not really being all the way hip to when the schedules are. I'm like, oh, did they do that or what was that? But like, this was like, it was like real. It was in January. It was like traditional, what you picture at a film, like the whole Sundance thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were at the super spreader event that was Sundance 2020.
we went to PAX East in March. So I think we also spread a few germs.
Whoa.
We had no idea. It was like we did a show on February 29th. So and our character that we play is a president guy running for president. So we were shaking hands, like we did all the wrong things.
Oh God,
dude, it's so crazy. I was wrapping my second movie basically in the same area, actually from Ubisoft. We'll talk about that one in the future. And it was crazy because 2 days before we wrap, which is March 9th, the whole crew's going, hey, did you hear about this thing that's happening in Wuhan? I mean, it was like the beginning of the stand. And it was like, 50 people in a, shooting in an inn with a blizzard coming, and also hearing about rumors of a flu. And like when I got on the plane, my parents sent me home with Clorox wipes in a Ziploc bag. I like wiped my seat down. I was like, okay, I think there's a storm coming. It's so bizarre. So we, Brennan and I were arguably at the last in-person film festival.
That's crazy.
In America, because South by, I think, was right after, Tribeca was ever. Everything went fucking virtual. And now as a Sundance alum, you're getting, I'm getting surveys like, if we went virtual, how much would you pay if we did this? What would what would you, what's your threshold for attending, and what does that mean? And, so anyway, it was a wild ride, but yeah, very grateful we got to experience that in person before the world shut down.
I'm sure it's been interesting it would be, anyways, obviously we're all having very interesting, horrifying years, but your year and this movie have both been this, like I said, you know what I mean? Like, to start the year at Sundance and end on like premiering in October on Shudder. It's hopefully that's been some sugar with all this god awful you know.
Yeah, it's well,
that's cool.
It's welcome, and hopefully the movie, social message aside, like, we set out to make the kind of movie you can pop on the background, not to think too much about, get a pizza, and enjoy. So hopefully that's what it is for people.
And I haven't seen it. I'm gonna watch it tonight. I will tell you that I am excited about Chris Redd being in it, and I can't imagine you guys were anything less than excited when you got Chris Redd.
Yeah, they're both incredible. Chris and I had a lunch meeting, and he didn't even get his coat off by the time he said he wanted to do it. He was, it was like halfway off his sleeve, and he's like, I love this script, I want to do it. Boom, he's in the chair. So the rest of the time we were just kind of, throwing down about SNL and mutual friends, and he changes the game. And I think, honestly, Brendan, maybe you have a better memory of this than I do. Originally, and this I think would have truly killed us, because our biggest criticism is that we're a little fatty as a film. It is a 4-person cast where 2 people are talking 80% of the time, Chris being the third for the rest of it. It was originally going to be 2 people with 1 cameo, not being Chris's role, and Chris coming in at the midpoint was the suggestion of a producer, one of the investors on Get Out, who I talked to, who we went to potentially throw in, and he didn't throw in, but he gave us some great advice. And one of them was, I think you got to freshen up this movie with some extra character coming to the midpoint. And I knew I wanted to write some character like, our buddy Henry Zabrowski coming in for 2 pages and leaving, but for him to be a part of the movie the way that he is I think it sort of, saves it in the end. It pushes us over the hill of it being a talkie. So, 2 people in a house.
I was gonna say, watching the movie, I know that College Humor obviously has like a long history with UCB, and I've been to like a billion UCB shows. It definitely had the vibe of like, those like old, like long, like mono scene improv shows where like you introduce a third character to like shake up the, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. It definitely had, it definitely felt like one of those old, like cool UCB shows to me watching it.
Yeah. We used to go to those way back when like, God, was it Ollie? I can't remember his last name, who left to do The Pit, and like Horatio Sands and Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, like when they were young. Yeah. Like young enough where I was like, I was going to ask Amy Poehler out for a drink at 19 years old. I was just like, if I get close enough, maybe I'll be like, hey, do you want to? I don't think Matt Besser at the time would have let that happen. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely influence in that, but also by nature of the fact that Aya and Chris both come from live performance as a comedian and an actor, respectively. Or vice versa. It put it over the edge. I mean, it helped it, and thank God they were just down to do. I wrote this script to the strengths, and the strengths are like doing a troll impression and laughing like the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, certainly.
I love it.
Your comedy characters definitely felt at home in the movie.
Yeah, well, for budget reasons, we couldn't get Ryan Reynolds. So like,
I was going to ask about that, between both just that and just like how much of that is in your mind when you're writing, whether it be what you can do, or is it also like what we can, what could we go shoot in, or what might we know, or my buddy's got this old car, or like
all that shit.
Yeah.
All that shit, especially when you're making a movie this size. I mean, I think Brennan, you and I were talking about like, from the get-go, okay, well, we know we're going to be in this town and we have this resource, or this person is local. I mean, Iowa's local. Iowa didn't live far from the house, and it was a close drive for us. If we Brenda didn't have a car, I don't know if we would have.
Yeah, and we also like had made a short, like our Star Wars fan film was like made in that same area, and yeah, it was definitely from that. Well, also too, Josh, I mean, you were like, let's just do something. I'll be in it. It'll be me and someone else. I'll get a friend to be in it. And I mean, literally, I know we said it before, but we were talking about doing the broom pole version, where instead of a boom pole, it's a mic taped to a broom pole, and we're just hanging out holding it ourselves. That's where it started, and then it just got bigger, but still small.
Yeah. It was crazy to watch Brendan and this crew, which is the proper term one to one crew? Where
It was a 1-and-1 and a swing. So we had we had one person on our electrical department, one person on our grip department, and then one person who swung between them, which meant that all three did everything.
Yeah.
Like literally just walking. I'm like, ooh, I actually want the moonlight to come 50 feet across that stream in like 4-foot snowbanks. That's where I want the light to come from. We cool with that? And they're like, okay, that's all three of us now having to do this one task, things like that. But yeah.
I know this is kind of it's like a question you hear a lot, but I want to just because the nature of it, because you said not only we're talking about the nature of long like performances, dialogue driven performances, but then also getting UCB people. So was it with the nature of the production, did you shoot the script pretty tightly, or did you allow a lot of room for like improv sneak in, things like that, or how did that go?
A little bit of room for improv, but we had 14 days. We were snowed out for 2 days, or like 2 half days. And I had Aya Cash. Sorry, there's a very loud pterodactyl. That's annoying. We had Aya for like 9 days, and Chris for basically a day and change. So we had to shoot it pretty tight to the script, and where we could open it up, we did. I mean, as a director, you have to let your actors contribute something and somehow. But I mean, there was one day where there's a scene that was written as 14 pages that now in the movie is cut down to 60 seconds. And I mean, they acted the shit out of it. They give it their all. It's just the two of them. Well, with me watching, and that was one of the days where, they got everything in the can, and, 14 pages worth of shit, just because it was one of the ways we were going to get to 90 pages. And, I don't know, it's a miracle in and of itself. Where we could open it up, we absolutely did, but I think everything was 3 takes, if that,
Yeah. And I think to open it up too, you have to have like at least 2 things, which is, time, which we didn't have. Yeah. I think, what did we do? 17 pages one day or something? It was something completely absurd. And then you also have to have both actors in the room, where you had multiple days where it's just Josh and we're just shooting out his coverage and he's reading against his now fiance, and just like no opportunity. I mean, obviously improv there, and we're like a week later, Aya's there, we're shooting out her side, and we're like, what did Josh say? Or our script supervisors actually crushed it. Like, we really needed that.
Oh my God. Yeah. And we actually lost our initial script soup to a bigger gig, and he brought in his protege, who was awesome. But she, came in halfway. I mean, we had,
so you had started with someone else.
We started with someone else. We had a first AD that got let go, or that had left. I mean, there was like all kinds of shit. I mean, the first day of filming was the coldest day in 8 years. The crew toilets froze in the house they were staying in. We didn't have hot breakfast the first day. I mean, there was like all kinds of first filmmaker. You want to be like, it's Herzog shit, but
right. Yeah. Is it?
Say something.
Oh yeah, we rolled up on the pre-light day. It's not even the first day. It had snowed like 2.5 or 3 feet the day before, and I was the first one there, and the first thing I see is a car in a ditch, and it was from the production. We're like, cool, great.
They were going to load in the morning, and I get a text from Brandon where he says, the text is, don't come here.
You're directing.
I didn't want you to see the Grip and Electric truck just locked wheels just sliding down an icy hill as we're like, oh God, don't hit that train. It stops like 1 inch like before. It was just, I was watching, I was like, no.
And didn't it stay there? Like, I think it stayed. Like, we salted it. And
it couldn't leave. because it was too steep and slippery. So we had to load it into other vehicles for anything else. And then we got lucky because then it was like 70 degrees the day we had to leave, which meant that, 3 feet or 4 feet of accumulated snow and ice all came off the roof and onto all of our blackout curtains.
All right, that is kind of one of her talk shit, though. That is,
yeah.
Well, I was it saved at all? While you're like, yeah, but we're making this damn movie, or was that not enough at the time when the cars were sticking out of the ditch?
I mean, we weren't even starting to light yet, so it was like, oh god, if this is the start. I think once we got into it, and it's really cool to see the magic happen, and people come back from being behind the monitor in another room and are just like, hell yeah, like we're doing something here. So that the energy gets flowing again there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it must have been
the
weird.
The motivation was always there to make
a meta. It's just a bad joke that you're making a meta horror movie that turned into a meta horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, when you're just like in the first 2 minutes of walking into the crew house, like day one, the script soup is like, so I think we should put Avion in the toilet to flush it, and we're just like emptying water bottles and just like washing this slosh of shit to try and get the toilets flushed so that someone else can use it. You're just thinking like, these poor fuckers. Oh my god.
That's showbiz, baby.
Showbiz,
real glammy.
We did, yeah.
Or feed you water down the toilet on our big house.
When we go to VOD, I'm gonna be knocking on people's doors to rent this movie, because the crew, we I read this book. Both of us did, called Like Brothers. Jay and Mark Duplass wrote, where they're just like, it was part of the motivation for making this thing, where they're just like, stop taking meetings and just fucking make something. Yeah. And that's what Brendan and I have been doing anyway, but they're talking specifically about like, you want to make a movie? Go ahead. You can make one for $1,000. Pick up your iPhone. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they do, especially when they have these like real low budget films, is they do crew splits. So in success, the crew will get a percentage of the film. So, part of the sort of incentive and talking to everyone is just like, hey, department heads, like, put your back into this thing. Someday it will pay off. And for it to get the kind of buzz it has, even if we're not quite there yet, it's incredible. So I hope that works out for people and they can, actually make their rate in 2 years.
Right. And that's cool to put you in a position, hopefully too, to like pay these people back quite literally, hopefully with some interest, if it all goes to plan and stuff like that. That would be great.
Yeah.
So I don't know, can I ask you about the Star Wars short you mentioned a few times? Like we're
take it away, Brennan.
Is that
It's on Vimeo. It was a staff pick was that a year ago or 2 years ago? I can't remember. But yeah, it's out there. It's called TK630. You'll find it on my Vimeo page. It's just a little story about a scout trooper as the protagonist, and sort of encounters someone while he's marooned on a forest planet, sort of somewhere between episodes 3 and 4.
Okay, I was going to ask that. That's cool. Okay, very cool. So it's maybe in that Rogue One sort of transitional time or something. Love that. That's awesome. TK.
Yeah, but really funny. Like before, like we had started making it before I think Rogue One had even announced. So it was like, oh wow, all right, they're making something in the same time.
Yeah, very good. I love it. I love a good accidental synergy. We're like always publishing articles on our website that just accidentally sync up with some news thing, and people are like, they did it again. Had that one locked and loaded. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Is the Star Wars short, is it like, obviously it's not like Disney made this short, but like, do you guys consider it like part of the Star Wars world, or is it like inspired by Star Wars and it looks like Star Wars?
It's totally a part of that universe. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the way down to like when we were going to color or doing that was one too where me, Josh, and our buddy Charlie McQuaid all worked on the story together. Charlie wrote it, Josh was the lead, I directed and shot it, but cool. Josh also like sort of deserves a co-directing credit there for doing so much with performances and our child actor. And I mean, all the way down to like when we're doing effects, I'm like, I want the sparks that you get from the original trilogy, but I want some of the glow and the darker red colors that you get from Some of the newer stuff like Force Awakens had just come out. It's like, okay, let's pull these different elements from the different eras. And then all of our music, our editor, Vincent Welch, who's fantastic, he pulled almost all of the music from video games and animated series in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, cool.
So it's sort of an amalgamation of all of these different properties that are all familiar, but I think when combined are like a little bit new. You might even hear like we couldn't pull like the spaceship sound out from like a cutscene in like Fallen Order or something like that. And so you just hear very lightly in the background when it's not.
I can't remember if they had made, there was a, not a public domain archive, but Disney Star Wars had provided an archive of sound effects. Is that right?
That's cool.
Yeah, they gave a bunch out, and we used some of them. But then I was like, literally, also in the mix. Goldcrest did the mix and the design. I mean, he was like, "Oh yeah, I like recreated part of how to make the original sound, like where you like create reverb essentially with the yeah. And that that's mixed cool. Layered in with the new sound effects and then old sampled ones, just to give it like that feel from sort of it, you don't know which generation it lives in.
That's really cool. Wow, that sounds intriguing. What is it again? I'm sorry, TK360?
630.
630, okay.
630 is Josh's birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an homage. It was an homage to me.
Put that in the IMDb trivia.
Yeah.
I like the pretentious filmmaker, like, oh, that's an homage to me.
Yeah, my dad.
It's sort of a metaphor for my birth.
She says 630 me.
Like Brendan had all these influences he was in, and Josh just like, can we change it to 6:30?
It's gonna be me, thank you.
I think my birthday has a ring to it.
It's better than you like started filming at 6:30 p.m. or something, so you know it could have been worse.
Yeah. And actually, God, that would we were really smart about releasing that one because I think. Was it our buddy Creighton we went to for advice on this? But we sort of were like, where can we have the exclusive? Because it is a quality short. So to go to, I can't remember if was it The Verge or there was like a Star Wars fan site or something?
No, it's like the Force.net is like the classic Star Wars fan page. And I don't know how big or how powerful they are now, but it was also just cool to sort of get that like little nod from people who are like have been around doing that thing for a long time.
Did they put up Troops? Is that where you used to be able to watch Troops like forever ago? Do you know that one? Like that it was like the episode of Cops. I think
that they hosted it. Which is a part of like the same contest that like Disney relaunched this like Star Wars fan film thing, which was the impetus to make it, but we didn't end up submitting to that because they had a 5-minute hard runtime and we wanted ours to be longer, a couple of other things. But so it's being also just a part of that legacy because I remember watching Troops and like mind blown. Like you can do this?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. There's like the Tom Servo robot that one of them has or something like, just this weird, like, like it's not it's not canon or whatever. So yeah, like he's like, you just do this. They could just like be talking like regular dudes into the camera. And it's like, so funny. Yeah.
Well, then I don't know if you were involved with it, Brendan, but I know Josh, you were in those College Humor Star Wars parodies, right? The Troopers, not Troops, but Troopers.
Yeah. Troopers. Troopers is actually and then they did a massive, God, I want to say it was like maybe one of the biggest budget like remakes or revisitations, reboots they did in the College Humor now Dropout canon, where they put serious money into, I think, a whole series, like a web series. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to announce any of this, but we're trying to venture into animated territory now to keep it alive. And it's, it's one of those beloved, kind of drop out IPs, and you get away with just about as much parody. They walk right up to the line of parody, adjacent to Spaceballs, but it's very different. It's got a really, really fun style to it. But yeah, the first one we did, I think we did like College Humor. Yeah, I think the first Troopers sketch we did was after 9/11, but it was talking about the Death Star attack as being
where
like
they're sitting in the cantina.
Wait, do you mean it was on purpose, or like you just had horrible, like you had that ready to go? It was like locked and loaded for.
Oh no! It's when it was I think it was probably, it must have been actually because that was in, obviously 01. I left in 2013, so it probably was like 09.
Oh, I got okay.
Yeah, and so we visited quite later, but to make that, not gallows humor, but to just to talk about where they were the day that that it had happened. It was really that was great. That was really cool.
It's so fun, like you said, like Troops was the first thing, but just to like this thing to if it looks and sounds and feels like Star Wars, but then when there's like jokes or something, it's such a funny like puncturing of this thing. It's like, wait, what? Or you know what I mean? That sounds
yeah.
And then I know we're winding down. We don't want to take too much of you guys' time. Certainly have a busy day. Once again, Scare Me on Shudder. TK June 30th on Vimeo. And then you mentioned rapping, another thing. Is there anything you want to talk about, or too early? Or
Ubisoft's I want to say one of their first independent ventures. It's called Werewolves Within, and it's a comedy horror ensemble whodunit, kind of like Knives Out, where Sam Richardson plays the hero. That's about all I can say.
Sam Richardson. Oh, okay, sold.
He's the best, and he's also like, he calls himself a blurred black nerd, which he just said recently, just like, I am a total blurred, but he's one of, I mean, he can bro down, and he talks, he knows everything Star Wars, everything Defenders of the Earth, everything Boglins and Silverhawk, and it was incredible to watch this dude, to watch him play the hero, because our initial conversations were, especially about that part, was, hey, I usually play the friend of the bumbling nerd sort of type. And this is going to be a really, really fun light to see him in. I'm very, very, very excited. Yeah.
That's exciting. That's really well deserved. Good for you. Good for him. I don't even mention my UCB background, because I did it in the Detroit wing. That's like no longer there.
Is there a Detroit UCB?
There used to be. It was in suburban Novi, Michigan, but it sounds a lot cooler to say Detroit. That trick. I don't know if other states do that trick, but no, like it was fine. It was sort of the thing that I did live improv to be like, oh, I think I'd rather do live stand up, and that led me to writing, and now this and everything. So it's great, but there's really not much of a story to tell, except for one day Sam Richardson was my substitute teacher. That's like the cool thing that came up, that happened. And so it's not every day that I'll say that, but yeah, that's just so cool. So to watch him succeed, and Detroiters and everything else, like to hear him doing a lead and with you guys, that rules.
He's his love for Detroit is real. And he's got, his parents go back and forth between Detroit and Ghana. And it's a fascinating dude.
He went to Ghana with Conan, I think, right?
Yeah,
that was really good.
It's an incredible episode. Yeah. Anyway, Werewolves Within, hopefully next year, all virtual cinemas.
I know, right? Yeah, it's such a So it's like, it used to just be like, we don't have it finished, but I was like, we don't know what the state of cinema will be, so it's kind of hard to talk much about the release. What the fuck? Well, I think does that cover it? Jeremy, is there anything you wanted to ask? Is there?
No, I mean, you guys got to head out. I imagine you have a bunch more interviews. I hope they're all worse than ours, but I don't know.
Honestly, this was one of the more enjoyable, one of the more pleasant ones. You get to actually, let your hair down a little bit, talk about things that we loved growing up as kids. Man, I hope the world likes it. It was a hell of a lot of fun to do, and I can't believe we're coming up on 2 years since making it, which is bonkers.
That's
bonkers.
So cool.
That's how long.
Well, I enjoyed it. I watched it this morning. I woke up early to watch it. I'm pretty lazy. I'm a pretty lazy person. So.
High compliment.
But congratulations, guys! It's obviously, it's so cool to achieve that, and I really dig what you guys do, and certainly just what I've learned from you today and everything. It certainly seems to be like, we like that. We'll fuck with that next, whether it be Star Wars or horror or comedy and all that. And that's just so cool. Certainly to see you find footing in all of these worlds too. So congratulations on your well-deserved and earned success, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, y'all.
Oh, for sure. So, if you're hearing this, the movie's available on Shudder right now.
Yeah.
And it is called It's called Scare Me. I'm like terrified.
I have one last question, actually. I went to watch this movie on Amazon, and there's a different Scare Me that came out this year. Do you guys have a beef with this? You guys,
shit.
have you guys? Because I saw it and I was like, is this the one? And there's like a guy with like, you know, like shaggy hair and a beard, and I was like, I don't know if like fucking Gemberling shows up in this movie. Like this could, I don't know if this is it, but like,
wow,
you know, but it was
that
not.
Was this was a weird experience. We did what's called a title clearance, where you make sure that there isn't anything else called Scare Me, or that if there is, it's not going to be a conflict. This evidently wasn't. It was in, I think it was in pre-pro, or maybe it was in post. But we're like, there's no Scare Me. Haven't heard of these guys. We'll see. You know, let's just forge ahead with ours. They release before us. They get a punchy looking poster, and you know, God bless them. They made a movie. It tanked our IMDb rating. So the weird thing right now is like our Rotten Tomatoes is like in the 80s, but if you go to IMDb Pro, it's like 3 point whatever, and that's because there's another Scare Me. And so even when people are rating our movie, which is well before it came out, when the other Scare Me came out, they're saying, all the boobs and the, you know, the beer and the murder. And it's like, wrong movie. But they rate it anyway. Like, I don't know why I catch this, but one. So yeah, that was kind of a bummer, but I'm more glad that we're getting the buzz that we're getting, and we're getting the love. You know, I know Rotten Tomatoes is, you know, controversial, but that we're getting some love there, and that people are like checking both. Yeah. But yeah, it's God, what a weird thing. Definitely learned my lesson for like, come up with your unique title. And
also like released it, I think, on digital like the same week that ours came out on Sundance, and I don't think it's anything malicious. I think it's just total happenstance. So people are like, oh cool, new movie, it's at Sundance, it's on Amazon, let me check it out, because like streaming's weird now, and it's like nope, not us.
Well,
good times. It's a fun prank. It's a fun prank. You know, Brent and I were like, let's do the one we would have done with Kickstarter. Let's do that. And then it'll be like
right, yeah. You do the boobs movie, and then if it does well, you turn it into like a more serious deconstruction of the form.
That's right.
I thought you were going to say more serious Deacons adjacent.
Man. Well, guys, awesome. We'll let you get to your day.
But yes, not ours.
And all of that. Go see the Scare Me on Shudder. I said go see it. That's not how we do it these days. Fucking throw on Scare Me.
Go upstairs.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Cinematographer Brendan Banks, writer, director, actor Josh Ruben. Guys, thank you so much for coming on to the Hard Drive podcast today. And Jeremy.
What's up?
I don't know. We don't know what we're doing next week, do we?
No, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure something out. We'll watch Rock Lords. We'll prepare dissertations on Rock Lords, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Bye, everybody.
Guys, thank you so much.